Yo, let's get into it. Clap it. Yeah.
Get down.
Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not a political channel, but we about to get real problematic, okay? We're not a political channel, we're about to get real problematic. And I want to start off with the basics. If you're coming here to try and figure out, I wonder what side he's leaning on, shut up. We're not a political channel. We're a tech channel first and foremost, okay? Put some respect on my shit. Number 2, I'm probably on the side that you think I am. Look at me. You really want to take a guess here? Huh? We'll see what you figure out towards the end. Kind of a interesting development, whether you are in the cybersecurity space or just the technological spans of radio waves, infrared, and whether or not microwave frequencies are enough to create a detonation. All of these things we're going to try and dive into, but there has been an upscale almost on the level of some James Bond 007 type ish. I mean, really, like, to know that, like, your secret gadget pen could become this or do that. Well, your pager and damn near your walkie-talkie could go boom, boom. And this is kind of alarming to me because when this story first came out, the hospital requested all of us to turn in our pagers, or at least for the most part, take out our batteries in our pagers. And I have 2 pagers, but I always take the batteries out of them because whenever there's like code silver or code orange, code pink, all of those bypass silent features, and I just don't want my shit going off in the middle of the night. So the thing that I really wanted to focus on here is drilling down to why this is happening, what is the implication moving forward, and how has the evolution of technology created gaps for cybersecurity people to learn how to fill in. This is truly remarkable on how this was done. And up until this point, there has been no one who has claimed action for these attacks. These were attacks done on a widely believed terrorist group that has been supplying weapon and machinery for the Gaza Strip and helping the Palestinian soldiers or respond to the attacks that have been happening in Gaza. And no matter how you feel on both of those features and feet, the primary focus of this conversation is going to be, once again, how are they doing this? And by who I mean probably more than likely Israel, as Hezbollah has pointed to Israel as the culprit. And 2, like, what? These are going off. I don't think I'm going to be able to show any of the explosions because that's against YouTube's TOS, and I'm not a big CNN type, so like, share, and subscribe. Don't let a black channel fail. Don't let a black man fail in September. Like, share, subscribe. How did pagers explode in Lebanon, and why was Hezbollah using them? Here's what we know. Hundreds of pagers carried by Hezbollah members. This is this right here. I'm calling out the first bullshit. It's within the first sentence. We don't know that every person who's carrying one of these pagers works for Hezbollah. There were people who had pagers in markets. There were people who had pagers in hospitals. There were people who had pagers in regular car mechanics. We don't know who. Just because you have a pager doesn't mean it goes. I don't know if, at least from where I'm from, when you work in one of these bigger like markets, people do a lot of hawking of stuff, which is trading of stuff, right? Or we know like a shipment gets sold at a lower price, whatever. But to say that every single person carrying one of these pagers, every one of these people who could be perceived as an innocent bystander or victim, that's how they start to desensitize you from feeling empathy or sympathy for people who are hurt by these attacks. In Lebanon blew up nearly simultaneously on Tuesday, an unpredicted attack that surpasses a series of covert assassinations and cyber attacks in the region over recent years in scope of execution. The Iran-backed militant group said wireless devices began exploding around 3:30 p.m. local time. It's a targeted Israel attack on Hezbollah operatives. And I think that is a great distinction. Hezbollah, while many people believe Hezbollah's militant anchor is believed to be a terrorist group, the Hezbollah people, or not people, but the core demographic, which primarily focus on governing, has not been deemed a military state by Eastern and Middle Eastern countries. The West generalizes them and all, and I made that mistake just now, but there is a fair distinction. The Hezbollah government has been known for their building and community service outright. It's just the militia part of it, the fighting arms part of it. And there's even questions for the defensive arms, who strictly only defend hard targets in Lebanon, to not be associated with it. This conflict goes deep, and carrying out the finite line tooth, combing through it with a tooth and nail, is very difficult. So, excuse me for any of my transgressions, it's not on purpose. CNN learned that Israel was behind the attack, which was joint operative between Israel intelligence services. So that's good. Now Mossad and Israel's military. The Lebanese government condemned the attack, criminal Israel aggression. So that's nice to know that there has been confirmation that was Israel. I don't think up until now. So this was updated. Today at 5:00. So the pagers that exploded were new and had been purchased by Hezbollah in recent months. A Lebanese security source told CNN Taiwanese manufacturer said on Wednesday the pagers, which bore the company's mark, had been made by a European distribution company. I think they were called like GDC or something like that. And the Lebanese source did not provide any information on the exact date the pagers were bought on their model. Experts say the explosives unpredicted in their scale and nature underscore Hezbollah's vulnerability, as it is a communication network was compromised to a deadly effect. And this is the second time they've done it. The first time they were compromised was when one of their leaders answered the cell phone, and when the person answered the phone and the voice confirmed it was his, they sent a rocket through his house and blew him up. And from that day forward, they weren't allowed to use cell phones. So they moved over into the pagers, and pagers are quite reliable and quite useful. Back in the day, they were used to keep your holes in check, and now they're being used to literally put holes in your chest. So they have infinite use, and they were kind of built to withstand the test of time. But the fact that they were used in this product kind of screams foul to me on two levels. As far as we know, they had regular lithium batteries or a battery to scale. But these were all batteries. These were pagers that could charge based on the model. They had a USB-C port for charging. So these were internalized lithium batteries. And even if you put a lithium battery in the oven, in an open fire of that scale, it wouldn't cause the explosion we've seen. And some of these explosions to cause the pager to disintegrate to this scale infers that there was something more heinous put into them. So this leads me down the path of logistics. Two perspectives here. Option A, and this is just me being tinfoil. Option A, somehow the Lebanese security force Hezbollah order got detected by that, or maybe from the realization that they weren't going to go to, which probably makes more sense. If you knew your enemy was no longer using cell phones, you would probably switch over to the second most reliable thing, which would be pagers. And if you know that they're going to stop using pagers, or they needed ways for short form communication, two-way radios and two-way CV2 transmitters would be your go-to. So to now know this, it limits the scope of people's attack, which I think is super important. You no longer need to figure out where they are. You just need to figure out who's ordering in mass quantities items that wouldn't be useful in today's Lebanese lifestyle. And to have over 400 pagers be ordered in one time is a red flag. This is a battle of logistics and data security. This is a battle, and good on Israel for being able to maneuver and be so sloppy with this approach as for us to find it. The company that bought the licensure to create these devices is basically a shell company out in I believe in a southern country south of Turkey, which was owned by the CEO who was on LinkedIn came out and said basically, we don't do manufacturing, we just do consulting. So it's very much believed that Israel created a shell company, bought the patent to create these devices, bought them, and then sold them to their enemies with the expectation of doing it. There's no other way that they would have known exact serial numbers and exact pinpointed times to attack certain people. It's diabolical and truly like cruel and unusual behavior, because that means you had to take it upon yourself to seek out your enemy and do this. And like I said, this transgression is kind of outpaced everything. It's one of those things of who hit who first, who's doing what first. All the fighting needs to be stopped, obviously, but this is not what we want happening. We do not need an escalation of this scale and proprietary technology, because this now gives credence to a new type of attack. This has to be perceived as wrong on Israel for two reasons. Innocent bystanders are at risk. When this device went off in this scene, this person was injured in the attack, but this person, and the lady that was standing behind him initially, all were at risk. For these, and it's one of the things that's like, this then creates a situation of securing logistics, so travel items, because there is a far off idea that when they were traveling, they intercepted the devices, planted the devices, and or swapped the devices, and then let the devices keep running through. But this increases the thing. I think the initial fear from a cybersecurity standpoint was they found a way to hyperheat a battery, a lithium battery within, and do this. But we've all done the experiments. We've all seen what happens when small batteries go in. But it's not to say that a cell phone battery couldn't do any damage. We've seen cell phone batteries explode on planes before, and we've seen them. I think the one that comes to mind is the thing that we saw with the batteries was like it was an altitude thing. It was a cracked on the frame. There was something there. These all went off simultaneously at the same time. It's a coordinated attack. So it leaves people wondering about whether utilities and devices are safe. Third, the secondhand market immediately becomes a little bit more sketch, because who knows what's planted in those devices. And two, the integrity of people's companies, like every company has to be scared shitless right now, because if you create a device and you hear your device is being used to be blown up in the middle of nowhere or in a marketplace in downtown Target in New York, that's going to put a lot of companies on edge about who they give and do dealings with. It is, and I think and at first I wasn't really sure how to define this, but you have to define it as terrorism. This is terrorism on a scale of small to like not small, but like little room for like empathy or sympathy for the aggressors. Israel has found a way to take on more dangerous tactics to attack supposed people with no way of confirming who they are. If they have any affiliation, it's blow them up and then ask if they're guilty. And that can't be accepted. We have to condemn that in the highest form. And it's only adding more aggression to it. But this is the reaction you would expect from a small nation. Israel doesn't have the manpower, the people, the money, the facilities, the resources. They rely heavily and are literally feeding off the teat of the American nipple. If we ever want to talk about welfare queens, Israel's one of them. But we don't gotta have that conversation right now. And that's a great point, Ren. It puts America in a horrible position because America can't even defend itself right now. Israel didn't come out and say they did it because they hadn't even crossed reference with America. Hey, we are gonna go blow up some random pagers we fake sold to our enemies. And even America, I think, would have been like, nah, because you don't know who really got the pagers. We think 70% of them went to people that they're supposed to go to. What about the other 30%? Come on, they're all Hezbollah people, right? Right. I think in no small order we have to call a spade, and this is a horrific action. And if me saying Israel is bad makes me a bad person, hey, go fuck yourself. We're not a political channel. But I didn't say I couldn't be a dickhead to you, okay? Who was affected? Several areas in the country were affected, particularly Beirut, southern suburb at the populous area of Hezbollah's stronghold. Footage showed shoppers and pedestrians collapsing in the street following the blast. The blood-soaked injuries bore flesh wounds. Clip showed items lost, fingers damaged, eyes, abdominal lacerations. Damn. This was no small feat. This is no small feat. This is actually like pretty horrendous. At least 9 people were killed, including a child. 2,800 people were wounded, overwhelming the Lebanese hospital. So this is not only now a data cybersecurity and a logistic attack, but this is also now a resource attack on the hospital system, because the person who's coming in with a heart attack is not gonna get the treatment they need because people are coming in with laceration wounds. We already discussed why they're using pagers and how this explosion happened. I think we need to get our hands, someone needs to get their hand on the gold Apollo AR925. There was a question about this being a Motorola phone at first, Motorola devices, but then today it came out with and we talked about the company, which is the BAC, but then the radios also went off. So there's going to be more information that comes out about this, but Israel's out of control. An attack like this with no warnings, when both sides can see the fight that is happening in front of them, that's perfectly fine. But I just want to draw attention to like how underhandingly, like, this is a cheap shot type response for Israel to have the backing and the military might of the U.S. government at their disposal, but to resort to using tactics like this doesn't scream like we're protecting ourselves or we have the right to defend ourselves. It makes that argument so much more tougher to defend for those super war hawk ass people in our country, and it also makes it draws pause when people are thinking about like, well, what did the kid do who was just playing outside, and the mother who couldn't afford a cell phone but got the pager for cheap and uses it to keep in touch with her friends and family. What did she do? Was she just at the wrong place at the wrong time? That doesn't justify or signify it. So I think it's pretty clear we can say that this wasn't a cyber attack. This was more of a logistic attack that stemmed from a shell company being made and truly just the infiltration of this. Hezbollah has been vulnerable to these attacks in the past, and it really begs the question that I think everyone is going to be nervous about is it's just going to make everyone take pause about how logistics are going to be done and double verifying or scanning devices to make sure that they have the appropriate parts. I think very much so. This had to have happened to this company in particular, but for us to move forward or not to be afraid of using like a Sony device or a Temu device, Android, Windows, Apple, these companies will be very much careful about how they do business with Israel now. I think if you're a major corporation and you get wind of this and you hear that Israel is willing to use a random company's device to use in a terrorist attack, I think we very much so take a breath. I'm kind of, until we get more information, but I mean, at least we can tie a name to it, but that's just my opinion on it. I'm rambling at this point, but I'm curious to know what you guys think. How we can stop these type of attacks in the future, what type of logistics we might have to go through, and what type of laws and barriers we might have to put up to prevent our allies from using companies, literal companies, to do terrorist attacks. It's something I'm super interested in. But yeah, that's it.